Here are many paintings throughout Western art history that depict the devil or the angel of death playing the violin, from artworks dating back 2,000 years to modern ones. But why did trying to answer this question become the subject of this episode you're watching now? In each episode, we open one of the many windows of art history and shine our flashlight on a corner of its darkness to see what we might discover in the heart of art. Let's start with this painting, then look at a few others, then move on to real-life stories of some famous violinists, and finally connect all these puzzle pieces. Then, maybe, we'll arrive at an answer to that initial question. Why is the violin known as the devil's instrument, or the instrument of death? At first glance, you might think this painting belongs to centuries ago, maybe from the Renaissance or the Romantic era. But it might be good to begin by asking, who painted it? If we are not misled by its color scheme and subject, we'll find this is actually a very recent work. Ignacio Trellis, a contemporary Spanish painter, created this artwork around 2017, just 6 or 7 years ago. It's titled Elegy. What immediately grabs everyone's attention is the white violinist in the center of the painting. If you glance at it for just a few seconds, and someone asks you, "What did you see?" you probably wouldn't say the knight in the bottom right. Most likely, you'd say, "Death was playing the violin." What's depicted in this painting isn't just a character of death in the center, it's the essence of death. Every element here screams death. If you've read Dante's Divine Comedy, this painting might instantly remind you of that book. But in fact, it's a mythological and symbolic depiction of the joy of the angel of death, who triumphantly summons the defeated to his eternal land. Of course, it's likely the artist gave a nod to Dante. The only bright part of the painting is Death himself, his pale white figure, in sharp contrast to the darkness of the other elements. Being in the center of the frame makes him impossible to ignore. This white and pink skeletal figure, why has he decided to be an artist? That question takes us to a thrilling part of Western art history, to the belief that the violin is the instrument of death. Take a look at the painting by Janie or Greenwich. Then let's go back to our first image. Around death are people in dark clothing, seemingly dancing. This is the Danse Macabre, or Dance of Death, a recurring theme in medieval art. Check out these other paintings. 2. Camille Saint-Saëns, the 19th century French composer, wrote a piece called Danse Macabre, also known as the Dance of the Dead. It refers to a legend and superstition that was widespread in medieval France. According to the myth, Death appears every year at midnight on Halloween, playing a piece on his violin and summoning the dead to rise from their graves and dance. The skeletons dance to the melody of death until sunrise, when they return to their graves, until next year, when Death will come again with his violin. To understand this, we need to dig into the roots of the story, which tie into some real historical events. Let's explore the key ones. The oldest known reference to the violin goes back to the time of Nero, the Roman emperor of the 1st century. According to historical accounts, when Rome was burning in a massive fire, Nero watched it all from his palace window, playing the violin like a drunken devil, delighting in human suffering. Of course, we now know this dramatic account is historically false. Violins hadn't even been invented during Nero's time. But as one of the most infamous stories in history, it still matters because it connects to the idea that the sound of the violin can symbolize a wicked pleasure in human death, an entirely evil and diabolical joy. The violin, as we know, it took form around 150 AD, used to play lively music that men and women danced to together. Naturally, this joy in dancing didn't sit well with the Vatican, so the Christian propaganda machine got to work, branding violin music and dancing as satanic. And since the church was the main patron of painters, the idea that the devil should be shown with a violin gradually entered the art world. That's the whole story, but these satanic associations didn't remain just in paintings. In real life, rumors spread about violinists' alleged connections to the devil. Take 2 famous examples, Giuseppe Tartini from the 18th century and Niccolò Paganini from the 19th. Both were legendary violinists, The story goes that Tatini dreamt the devil appeared to him and, in exchange for his soul, taught him to play the most beautiful violin piece. When he woke up, Tatini rushed to write it down and named the Peace Devil's Trill Sonata, which became one of the most famous and beautiful works in classical music. In Paganini's case, it was said he had sold his soul to the devil for his virtuoso skill. Rumors even spread that he used strings made from the intestines of dead women. In short, every kind of satanic accusation was directed at him just because he was a violinist. Still, Paganini was too smart to respond to these rumors. Instead, he used them to his advantage, letting the myth fuel his fame. Of course, there's no historical evidence that Paganini himself started the rumors, but they helped create the legend. And that's the whole story: how the violin, this enchanting instrument, came to be seen as something diabolical. It's such a fascinating tale that it continues to inspire painters and storytellers to this day. If you've watched this far, please like and subscribe, and share our channel with fellow art lovers. Stay tuned for more episodes exploring the lesser-known stories of art history.